Imagine waking up when your body is ready. No alarm, no calendar notification, no manager waiting for you, no place where your time is already owned before the day even begins. You sit up, stretch, look at the morning, and the first question is not, how do I survive this schedule? But simply, well, what needs doing today? For almost all of human history, that question was normal. Modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years, but the world of jobs, wages, deadlines, offices, factories, and career ladders is incredibly new. For most of our existence, no one had employment in the way we understand it now. There was work, of course. There was danger, hunger, skill, responsibility, conflict, and effort. But there was no boss, no salary, no retirement plan, and no idea that the main purpose of a human day was to sell most of it away. So what did people actually do all day before jobs existed? The first surprising answer is that survival may not have taken as much time as we imagine. In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Lee studied the Dobe-Ju-Hwansi in southern Africa, one of the hunter-gatherer societies that helped change how researchers thought about prehistoric life. He found that adults spent far fewer hours acquiring food than modern people usually expect, often around the range of 15 to 20 hours per week for direct food getting. That does not mean ancient life was easy, peaceful, or comfortable. It does not mean every hunter-gatherer group lived the same way. A drought, an injury, a failed hunt, childbirth, infection, or conflict could still be brutal, but it does challenge the modern fantasy that ancient humans were trapped in non-stop desperation, spending every waking moment chasing calories. In many foraging societies, once enough food had been found, people did not keep working just to produce more and more. There was no market demanding growth, no warehouse to fill, no employer measuring output, no concept of productivity for its own sake. If the group had enough, the pressure changed, the day opened. And this is where the story becomes interesting, because the evidence does not show humans merely surviving. It shows humans making meaning. In southern France, Chauvet Cave contains paintings more than 30,000 years old. Horses, lions, rhinoceroses, animals drawn with movement, proportion, and a sense of life. These were not rushed marks scratched by people with no time. Someone entered a dark cave by firelight and painted animals with patience and skill. That act did not fill a stomach. It did not sharpen a spear. It did not build a shelter. It belonged to another human need, the need to create. In South Africa, at Blombos Cave, archaeologists found ancient perforated shell beads, objects carefully modified and likely used as personal ornaments. In Germany, at Hohlefels, researchers found a flute carved from the bone of a bird, with finger holes shaped to produce music. Long before cities, long before writing, long before the first office, humans were decorating themselves, making instruments, painting animals, telling stories with objects, and turning spare time into culture. That is the part we often forget. When humans are not completely consumed by survival, they do not simply become lazy. They make things, they sing, they decorate, they experiment, they tell stories. They turn the world into symbols. So if we tried to imagine a normal day in a hunter-gatherer camp, it would not look like a modern workday with animal skins. It would have a different rhythm entirely. People might wake near dawn as the camp begins to move. Someone tends the fire. Someone checks what food is left from the day before. A few people discuss whether to gather plants, repair tools, move camp, follow tracks, or stay where they are. The planning is real, but it is not the planning of a workplace. It is practical, flexible, and tied directly to life. Some people might leave to hunt or gather, but not everyone goes every day. If food is available, others may remain in camp, preparing hides, repairing tools, making baskets, shaping points, watching children, gathering wood, processing food, or teaching younger people how to do what adults know how to do. None of this is free time in the modern lazy sense. It is skill, maintenance, and social life woven together. This is one of the biggest differences between their world and ours. In modern life, work is usually separated from life. You go somewhere, do tasks for someone else, then return to the rest of your existence. But in small-scale societies, many activities sit in between categories. Making a tool is useful, but it can also be creative. Preparing food is necessary, but it is also social. Caring for children is responsibility, but also education, bonding, and play. The day is not sliced into work, leisure, family, and identity the way ours is. And hunting itself was not always the dramatic movie scene we imagine. Sometimes it involved tracking, patience, waiting, reading the ground, reading the wind, knowing animal behavior, and moving through landscapes with deep attention. Humans are not the fastest animals, but we are strange endurance creatures. we sweat, we cooperate, we remember. We can follow signs for hours and turn a landscape into information. A successful hunt could feed many people. A failed hunt did not automatically mean starvation, because human survival was rarely based on one strategy alone. Groups gathered plants, dug roots, collected nuts, caught fish, trapped smaller animals, shared food, and relied on knowledge built over generations. Their intelligence was not stored in books or apps. It lived in memory, habit, hands, stories, and the group itself. Then comes the part modern people find hardest to understand. A large amount of time was social, not networking, not building a personal brand, not sitting beside people while everyone silently looks at a phone. Real social time, talking, laughing, teasing, resting, grooming, watching children play, telling stories, resolving tension, remembering people, and keeping relationships alive. This was not wasted time. In a world without money, police, contracts, insurance, or government systems protecting your daily life, relationships were survival. If people trusted you, they shared with you. If they respected you, they listened. If you were selfish, aggressive, lazy in the wrong way, or impossible to live with, the group noticed. Social life was not an extra layer added on top of survival. It was part of survival itself. That may be why evenings mattered so much. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied conversations among the Juhuansi and found that daytime talk tended to be more practical. Food, resources, complaints, social regulation, the problems of the day. But around the fire at night, the tone shifted. Stories became far more common. People talked about ancestors, myths, distant places, strange events, jokes, memories, and the invisible world behind ordinary life. This matters because the night fire may have been one of humanity's oldest theaters. In darkness, when immediate tasks were finished and the group was gathered in a circle of light, the mind could go somewhere else. People could imagine the past, the future, spirits, danger, morality, and identity. A campfire was not just warmth, it was a machine for culture. Even sleep may have been different. Before artificial light, many people in pre-industrial societies did not always sleep in one clean block the way modern life expects. Historical evidence suggests that segmented sleep, sometimes called first sleep and second sleep, was common in parts of pre-industrial Europe. People slept for a while, woke during the night, spent time thinking, talking, praying, tending the fire, or being quietly awake, then slept again until morning. So when a modern person wakes at 2 a.m. and thinks something is wrong, it is worth remembering that our current idea of normal sleep may be partly a product of artificial light, work schedules, and industrial time. The human body is older than the alarm clock. If you put all of this together, the picture becomes very different from the one we usually carry. A human day before agriculture was not necessarily endless hunger. It could include several hours of food getting or tool work, long periods of social life, rest, storytelling, childcare, repair, play, ritual, observation, and sleep shaped by darkness rather than electricity. Again, this was not paradise. No dentist, no antibiotics, no emergency surgery, no guaranteed safety, no supermarket, no soft escape from a bad season. But it was also not the nonstop misery people often imagine. It was a life with hardship, but also with directness. If you worked, the work usually touched survival immediately. If you made something, you could see its use. If you rested, you were not automatically failing. If you created art, told a story, or sat with others, that was not something you had to earn after finishing your real life. It was part of life. Then, about 10,000 years ago, the rhythm changed. Agriculture did not arrive as a simple upgrade where everyone immediately became healthier, happier, and free. It solved one problem and created several new ones. Farming could produce more food in one place, and that allowed populations to grow. But once populations grew, people needed even more food, which meant more farming, more labor, more storage, more defense, and less ability to walk away. That is the trap of agriculture. It can feed more people, but it also creates a world where more people must be fed. Fields require constant attention. Land must be cleared, planted, weeded, harvested, stored, guarded, taxed, and fought over. Crops can fail. Grain can rot. Animals can raid fields. Other humans can raid storage. The work becomes heavier and more repetitive, and the body records it. Archaeological evidence from many early farming populations shows a difficult transition. Reduced stature in some regions, more signs of nutritional stress, more dental problems from carbohydrate-heavy diets, more repetitive strain, and new diseases connected to denser settlements and living close to domesticated animals. Farming gave humans food security in one sense, but it also made them dependent on systems that demanded more labor. And once farming created surplus, surplus created new roles. Toolmakers, potters, weavers, traders, guards, priests, administrators, rulers. Eventually, larger settlements became cities. Cities required organization. Organization required hierarchy. Hierarchy required people whose time was no longer fully their own. This is where the modern world begins to appear in the distance. The job did not fall from the sky. It grew slowly out of agriculture, surplus, property, states, markets, and the need to organize large numbers of people. Over thousands of years, human time became something that could be measured, owed, rented, bought, and controlled. Work moved further away from direct survival and closer to systems. You were no longer simply doing what the group needed today. You were doing what the structure required so you could access the resources the structure controlled. That is why modern life can feel so strange. You may live in more comfort than almost any ancient human could imagine, but your time is also captured in ways they would have found impossible to understand. You can order food from a glowing screen, but you may spend most of your best hours doing tasks whose purpose feels distant from your own life. You can sleep in a safe room, but wake up exhausted to obey a schedule made by systems, not by sunlight, hunger, weather, or the needs of people around you. Modern work gives us medicine, technology, stability, buildings, transport, communication, and protection from many ancient dangers. But it also takes something. It takes attention. It takes spontaneity. It takes long social hours. It takes the feeling that your day belongs naturally to you. And that is the real point. Our ancestors were not richer than us. They were not safer than us. They were not living in some perfect lost paradise. But many of them may have had something modern people are desperately trying to buy back: unstructured time, direct purpose, deep social life, and the ability to exist without turning every hour into productivity. You make art if you can find time after work. They made art because humans make art when time opens. You schedule friends into the leftovers of a calendar. They lived inside relationships because relationships were the structure. You take vacations to escape the life that feeds you. They did not have vacations, but they also did not have the same separation between survival and living. So maybe the question is not whether prehistoric humans had easier lives. In many ways, they did not. The better question is what modern life trained us to accept as normal. Because for most of human history, a human day was not built around a job. It was built around food, weather, tools, children, stories, fire, movement, rest, danger, memory, and the group. Then agriculture changed the deal. Civilization expanded it, industry accelerated it. And now many of us spend our lives trying to earn enough freedom to finally live in a slower rhythm that humans once knew by default. That is the strange irony. The life many people dream of retiring into, waking without an alarm, moving slowly, spending time with people, making things, walking outside, resting without guilt, is not a futuristic luxury. It is something much older, maybe older than money, older than cities, older than the word career. And maybe the reason modern work feels so exhausting is not only that we work too much. Maybe it is that we are the same ancient animal, carrying a body and mind shaped for rhythm, community, skill, movement, rest, and meaning, but living inside a system that often asks us to behave like machines. For 99% of human history, nobody needed to prove they were productive enough to deserve a day. They woke up inside the day, and the day was already theirs.